So everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I thought we'd do something fun and use our neuroscience or science skills in general to address the long debate of GOAT status. GOAT, of course, in sports stands for greatest of all time and is a crown that has created a lot of debate recently across a number of sports because the modern achievements of athletes, which I attribute mostly to longevity of better equipment and better nutrients and medical care, has led to many of historic records being broken in recent years. We have Tom Brady, of course, in the NFL. We have Tiger Woods in golf. We have LeBron James versus Michael Jordan in basketball, and of course in tennis. Tennis is unique because the major debate is between three players: Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, and Novak Djokovic, who of course play in the same era, which simplifies the problem significantly because you are no longer confined to limitations of different equipment, different opponents, different rules. And so the comparison, I think, is most valid in tennis. What we're going to try to do today is something fun and try to dispel and approach this debate using statistical inferences to see if, in fact, there is a conclusive GOAT in these types of debates. And as we'll see, these players are more similar than they are different. So here's a head-to-head comparison. I'm just gonna make this comparison between Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic, just because there was a lot of hype, who would reach number 21 first. But of course, you can't have a GOAT discussion in tennis without talking about the great Roger Federer. So assume that these analyses and comparisons are interchangeable between any of these three. And you can see here, these people have played 58 times. Novak Djokovic has won 2 times more. So just by sheer number, Djokovic has won more. Maybe he's the better player if we're comparing who's the GOAT, and you have 2 players that have played each other a significant number of times, and one has won more, 2 more. The Rafael Nadal fans will say, well, wins don't matter. It's all about Grand Slams. Rafael Nadal has 21. Novak Djokovic, Federer has 20. So by definition, using the most important metric in the sport, Rafael Nadal is the undisputed GOAT. And the fascinating thing about these 3 players is that, these numbers are so similar that these types of trivial comparisons are meaningless. And we'll just see how meaningless and how difficult it is to actually claim statistical GOAT status that is statistician approved. And I want you to understand one thing, right? These people have won 61 Grand Slams between the 3 of them. And you have one person with 20, one person with 20, one person with 21. There is no more fair way to split 61 Grand Slams among 3 people. There's no other way. So just because one has won more than the other, just logic alone suggests that there was no opportunity for it to be more fair. But let's see how we would do this statistically. Statistics, of course, is the branch of science that tries to assess if 2 populations are in fact different, or they're in fact the same population. And here's a nice cartoon. I just kind of Googled this. A t-test is a type of statistical test that we use to compare 2 samples to determine if they came from the same population. And that is the fundamental property of statistics. It tries to address the null hypothesis, is that there is no difference between the greatness of these 2 individuals. And of course, the alternative hypothesis is that there is differences. So the majority of statistics uses t-tests. It's very easy to do in a controlled environment. And so what you need to calculate a t-test is you need a mean and a standard deviation to generate a kind of a fairly normal distribution of those values. So in our particular case, we would need Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal to live 3 or 4 lifetimes, be born again, train again, and play again each other for 20 years, calculate the number of Grand Slams they accumulated in those different lifetimes, find an average, find a standard deviation, and compare those differences between the 2 and see if it reaches statistical significance. And a simplified way to look at the statistical significance is that we try to see if the difference between a specific interest a specific variable of interest, Grand Slams in this particular case, is significantly different enough that we can conclude that they came from different populations. And the probability kind of expectation that we need to cross to make this conclusion is 5%. So we can never be certain if these two players come from different championship DNA, but we want that probability that they come from the same population to be less than 5% for us to make this conclusion scientifically. So if we can't do it with a paired t-test because you only have one life to live, we can use what are called non-parametric tests to compare the observed distribution of Grand Slams versus the expected that would be presumed by chance alone if these players were equivalent. And using the chi-square test, we can assess if there's significant skewness to actually crown one of these individuals as far superior or greatest, right? This is the, by definition, we're looking for the great test, not great, right? So these players are obviously great. You don't need statistics to tell you that. We're trying to determine if one is greater than the other. And one way to think about this in a kind of simplified way is if we were flipping a coin, one side was Novak Djokovic, one side was Rafael Nadal. What is the probability that we'll get 5 heads and 5 tails? So even if these players are equivalent, there's an equal probability of heads and tails. If they played 10 times, the chance that they're going to be 5 and 5 is only 24%. Okay. The chance that one will win at least 5 is 62%. Right. So maybe in one lifetime, someone will win 5, 6, 7. The other person will win a few more. But to really, reach statistical significance, which is that magic number 0.05, they would need to play, if they played 10 times, one of them would need to win 8, even 9 times for a statistician to say, I've seen enough. These players are different. Obviously, that's a big number to achieve. And this is why it's so difficult to hand out this GOAT status when their numbers are so equivalent. Look, they played 41 times. We said 58 times. They played 58 times. Novak Djokovic has won 30. This is a coin flip. That's not a meaningful number that you can say one is better than the other. Grand Slams, 41. One person won 21. It's a coin flip, right? That was the expected event. This is not statistically significant. It would need to be 10 times, have a probability score 10 times less to reach significance. Okay, so what number? If it's not 21, what number do we need to have already crowned someone as the GOAT? If they played 41 times, right? So let's see the probability go down. So watch this number go down as, let's say, Rafael Nadal. Let's say he won 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So 26, maybe even 27. Rafael Nadal would need to have 27 Grand Slams to Novak Djokovic's and Roger Federer's 14, right? 14 plus 27 equals 41 to allow us to crown him as the GOAT. It's virtually so difficult that it makes no sense, right? That this is not, it's such a skewed number. 27 and versus 20, if we go to 57, not enough, right? Not enough. So let's keep Nadal at 21 at most, and let's see. Okay, and then so this is where the magic happens. 55.05. Novak Djokovic. So what is the number of Grand Slams Novak Djokovic needs to win, assuming that he is the more likely person to continue winning given his health and given his recent performance? What number of Grand Slams does Novak Djokovic need to win to surpass, let's say, Rafael Nadal and Djokovic and Federer to be the undisputed GOAT from a statistical point of view? We would need to have 55 flips, with Rafael Nadal winning 41 and Novak Djokovic winning 34. So he would need 34 Grand Slams for us to statistically call him the GOAT based on his Grand Slam performance. This is, of course, very, very difficult. And of course, one of the limitations of using Grand Slam totals to differentiate between players, it's such a difficult thing to achieve that you can only achieve it 4 times a year. The chance that you're going to differentiate yourself is very, very difficult from a statistical point of view. You can have the record, but that doesn't mean you're going to be statistically differentiated from your colleagues to reach that GOAT status that is so coveted across different sports. Now, if you did want to crown someone as the GOAT, you could use something that occurs more frequently. Let's say weeks at number 1. And I think last time I checked is Novak Djokovic had 360 weeks at number 1, and Rafael Nadal had 209. So in total, they've spent 569 weeks. That is over 10 years between them at number 1. Novak Djokovic has spent 360 of those weeks at number 1. That is a very significant result, right? So from a world number 1 perspective, the cumulative weeks that Novak Djokovic has spent at number 1 is insurmountable. And that would be a reason to call him the GOAT. But that's just one factor. I think the more and more you look at their head-to-head statistics, these players are more similar than they are different. And so, to me, their GOAT or championship DNA is derived from the same spirit, the same championship mentality, the same talent pool. And I have no statistical basis to conclude that one person is superior than the other. And so, yeah, it's obviously a fun thing to talk about, fun thing to compare. But from a scientific point of view, these players are from the same gene pool. All right, hope you enjoyed that. This is a really cool coin flip probability calculator. So good job to the creator. Encourage you to try it out. Just Google coin flip probability calculator and put in some numbers and see when we make these comparisons, do we have enough statistical evidence to conclude that one person is from a different population of talent or championship mentality than the other. Hope you enjoyed this. Like and subscribe, and see you at the next one.